Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Kirsten McNally, pronouns she, her. I am an educator here at Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum. Welcome to our conversation, Design Career Fair, Pathways to Design. If you are interested in a creative career, you're in the right place. If you're thinking about your next step, you're in the right place. And if you're not sure why you're here, but you love design, welcome. We are so honored and excited that you're here with us. This conversation is part of National Design Month, which honors innovation and impact and recognizes the power of design to change the world. Thank you to our leadership sponsors, Facebook, Shelby and Frederick Gans, Helen and Edward Hintz, the Hirsch Family Foundation, IBM, and Crystal and Chris Saka for making National Design Month possible, and to Adobe for supporting the Design Career Fair series. Before we get started, just a quick access check. We have closed captioning for this program that you can access by hitting the CC button on your Zoom toolbar. We'll be together for about an hour until 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Take breaks when you need, get comfortable, and we'll be recording this conversation so you can always return to it. And we welcome you to participate in the chat as well as ask questions in the Q&A box, which we will dig into towards the end tonight. When sending a message in the chat, just be sure to send your message to everyone so that everyone can see what you have to say. And very importantly tonight, you, the audience, gets to steer this conversation. We'll be launching Zoom polls on which topics our amazing panelists should discuss tonight. And as future designers, please make yourselves heard by participating in the polls. So with that, I'm really excited because tonight we'll be speaking to Dr. Sheryl D. Miller, graphic designer, professor, historian, and theologian, and the winner of our 2021 National Design Award for Design Visionary. Behnaz Farahi, designer and assistant professor at the Department of Design, California State University, Long Beach, and the 2021 National Design Award winner in our digital design category. Hey, Behnaz. And Melinda Dietz, head of industrial design at BioLite, winner of the 2021 National Design Award for product design. Our conversation will be moderated by Frances Basel. Frances is a first-generation Trinidadian immigrant and multidisciplinary industrial designer with a background in culinary arts and fashion styling, and he's currently a student at the College for Creative Studies in Detroit, Michigan. So lastly, we are so lucky to have Luke Woods, Vice President of Design at Instagram, who is here to formally kick us off. So over to you, Luke.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Design Career Fair. I'm thrilled to be here because this is one of the highlights of National Design Month. The Design Career Fair connects emerging designers like you with inspiring design practitioners in hopes of offering real-world tangible advice for you as you're pursuing careers in design. This event embodies the Cooper Hewitt Museum's mission of educating, inspiring, and empowering through design. Today, you'll have the opportunity to have conversations with this year's National Design Award winners, some of the most brilliant minds of our time. They're also very big advocates of you, the future designers who will go on to make things happen that today we can only dream of. Thank you for joining today. I can't wait to see what discussions we'll have. I'm thrilled to hand off to our moderator, Frances.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Luke. Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started now. Today, we'll be talking about the many pathways towards design and creative careers. As Kristen mentioned before, my name is Frances. I'll be moderating our talk today. I started out in culinary arts, switched to fashion. And in fashion, I realized that I didn't just like fashion design, but I was a fan of design itself and made the switch over into product design. And I'm currently a sophomore here in Detroit at CCS. How about you, Behnaz?
Hello, everyone. My name is Behnaz Farahi. I'm a designer based in Los Angeles. I have trained as an architect, and now I work at the intersection of architecture, fashion, and interactive design. And also I'm teaching at California State University Long Beach in the program called Human Experience Design Interaction. I'm extremely excited to be here in conversation with all the amazing award winners and you all.
I'm excited to be talking here to all of you guys today because this is a really important conversation. So many people have this idea that to get into design, you need to be from a certain background or have a certain formal schooling, when there's so many different ways to get into design. I've scoured the internet. I've met people who later in their lives have switched into design from careers that they would think had nothing to do with it. But I think everyone brings a little special something to the field of design from whatever part of life they're from, wherever background they're from. We can all benefit from everyone having a hand in design. And with that, I think we can start our poll to determine the first topic. Are we ready?
I think we'll just have Sheryl and Melinda introduce themselves really quickly too.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Sheryl Miller, and I'm grateful for this design award, and I am the design visionary this year. And so Cooper Hewitt Education, thank you so much. I'm a graphic designer and have operated as a broadcast designer for television for over a decade. And then I ran a graphic design firm in New York City. And along that way, I became a trade writer. I've been writing for the trade graphic design industry since 1987. And my articles have move the needle of conversation to make sure that everyone who wants to be in design has a seat at the drafting table, and everybody has a mouse in their hands. So with that, thank you for being here. And my work has been visionary and an activist. I'm a trade writer for the industry and a practicing designer.
My name's Melinda Dietz. I'm the head of industrial design at BioLate. BioLate is this year's winner of the Product Design Award. So at BioLate, our mission is to empower people and protect the planet through renewable energy access. So our team develops core energy technologies that are applicable to two different customer segments. The first is off-grid households, and the second is outdoor recreationalists. And on a day-to-day basis, I work very closely with a team of designers and engineers to define product requirements and features, create sketches, prototypes, to generate CAD renderings, and ultimately to work with different manufacturing partners who put our products on retail shelves.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Melinda. And now I believe we're ready to move on to the poll. So the first question we have here is, well, we have a range of topics here: mentorship, education, starting out, things they wish they knew, and breaking boundaries in design. So all of our viewers can vote now, and out is leading at the moment. We'll be closing the poll in 10 seconds, so everybody get those votes in. All right, so for the first poll, starting out has won, taking 44% of the votes. So I'll start it off. 1 second, start with that. Close this out. All right. So the first question I'm going to ask is, how did you deal with imposter syndrome? What made you feel like you belong and made the right choice? Would you like to answer, Sheryl?
Yeah, sure. I've never had imposter syndrome. Not a day, not one day. And I think that, I don't know, somewhere in me, or maybe somewhere in my upbringing from the time I was young, I felt that my interest, just even having an interest in art and design, was unique and different, like from my friends. And I've always known that this is, from the time I was tiny, I've always known that this is what I wanted to do. And I started winning awards and getting a lot of attention very early. Like when I was 10, I won a major award in Washington, and I ended up in the Washington Post. So I kind of always knew, and I think it started with the fact that what I wanted to do was just different. So it was different from my friends. We were all, our parents were kind of forcing us to do different things, be a doctor, a lawyer, this, that. So I think the fact that I had something unique and different, I was already a standout. So I leaned into it. So I've never been bashful about this. If anything, I've been able to recognize that I had something, and it was my responsibility to bring it forward. And now I might have been the only one at the time. Sometimes I'm the only one now, but that's what draws a lot of attention. And that attention helps me get my work done, because I'm the only one. I was the only one with my friends. I didn't have anybody else that wanted to do this. So I just believed in it and stood in it, and not bashful. So there's nothing, you can't be bashful in this industry, in this business. So I leaned into my interests.
Nice.
Melinda?
I do sometimes feel imposter syndrome, so maybe a little slightly different response. I still deal with it. I think every time you step into a new phase of your career, a new role, there's always going to be like a little bit of nervousness doing that. I was definitely nervous when I first was going to college and starting out in the design field, but I think that having community, so people in the design community with you who you can talk to kind of benchmark against, is a great way to know where you're at. I think just focusing on hard work. So one of the ways I used to deal with my imposter syndrome is just making sure that I was always working hard and putting in as much effort, if not more, than other people. And then I think just remembering that no matter how much I might feel like I don't belong where I am, it's not an excuse to not show up. So no matter how you're feeling, you still got to show up, still got to put your best work forward. And yeah, I think those are kind of the three things I've relied on when I felt imposter syndrome in my career.
Well said. Anas?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I probably somewhere in between. I sometimes maybe, if it refers to some form of nervous feeling of not knowing exactly what you do, I certainly experienced that. And that, I think any time that you're doing something new, it can be nerve-wracking too, because you don't know exactly what is the result. I kind of like to echo what Melinda maybe is saying, that it's very important to focus on the best of what you can do and not focus on outcomes, but focus on the process. So really enjoy your process. I mean, if you go on doing your most, if you're interested in any type of sport or any activity, you do it with passion. So you don't question yourself, right? You never feel nervous about it because you're actually doing what you really love doing. So I think being in design field, it's important to have the same feeling. So you're really kind of doing what you're passionate about and not necessarily thinking that, am I fitting in? Am I doing it the right way or wrong way? But actually believing and sort of like carving in what you are interested as a person, rather than fitting into structures that tell what to do. So I think for me personally, it's always like going back to that, to really kind of ground myself and thinking that I just want to define what I am interested. Maybe there is no structure in the world that I can fit in, but maybe I can sculpt it myself. So just follow your passion and just be persistent.
Definitely. I can attest to that. When I was in culinary school, the first day of class, the chef asked us, do you think you guys are chefs? And some students were like, no, we're aspiring chefs. And he was like, that's wrong. You're here right now. What are you doing? You're cooking, you're doing the act of it. So you all should consider yourselves chefs. So anybody who's aspiring towards design, I would say, if you're doing you're going through the motions of being a designer, you're doing all the right things that you feel that designers do, then you're already a designer. Everybody has their own instinct to be a designer as humans. So it looks like we also have one more time for another question. So starting out, what was your first job in design, and did it prepare you for where you are now? And bring it over to you, Melinda.
My first job in design, I, right out of school, accepted a very short contract at a small design agency in the Lower East Side. And I was excited about that. It was an opportunity to have a lot of input, which I think as a young designer is something you're always excited about. You want to feel like, you're a part of it and have sort of input into the design decisions that were made. So that was really cool. I also learned a lot about maybe things I was looking for in the next place I wanted to work at. So there's not every aspect of that experience was perfect, but I learned a lot more about what I was looking for and how I might realign my career to what I was interested in with the next role that I took.
All right, I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll go. I was really fortunate. I've always had really great jobs before starting my own firm. And so right out of school, my first job was with a television station. And I was just a graphic designer, one of 4 staff designers for Channel 9 in Washington, D.C. And one of my favorite stories, I was a graphic designer for WTOP TV 9, and Oprah was in Baltimore, and Gayle King was up in the news department. She was a production assistant, okay? And so I worked before moving to New York, I worked 10 years for 3 of the stations in Washington. And I say they were really great jobs because television is fun and extremely creative as far as having, jobs. And sometimes jobs can be very, very difficult because you have to do what the job says to do. But in television, it's / entertainment. And so they want you to be creative. And so I learned all different kinds, doing art design for all different kinds of, in a television station, there are all different kinds of television shows. And so sports show, kids show, news show, you get to do all of the graphics and the set design. And on a local level, your hands are all over all of the different types of programming. And so that was kind of, for a young designer, that was exciting. So I worked for NBC station, a CBS station, and a PBS station. And I think what was the variety of being assigned to different shows. It could be the kids show, the Saturday morning show, the dance show, the news show, the magazine show, the sports show, the news. And you had to do graphics for all of that, and set design and treatments and ads for the for the newspapers. So it was a great start.
Definitely.
It probably still is, because now it's all digital, and everything is instantaneous and it's electronic, and it's probably very exciting, motion graphics. So if you can land a job in a TV station or a network, go do it.
Noted. Banaz?
Yeah, so I had a little of a transitions in my design journey. I studied architecture. I moved to United States about 11 years ago to study architecture, my master degree in architecture at USC. And then that's how I started experimenting with a lot of new technologies. I got fascinated about interactive installations and interactive architecture. Then I transitioned to study my PhD at a School of Cinematic Arts in the program called Media Arts, in which I started building series of interactive fashion items and interactive objects and interactive interior spaces. And established my own practice. I got few commissions from different companies, museums and galleries, and that's how my kind of creative practice sort of took off. I kind of see design as a big umbrella that doesn't mean that if you're a designer, you're just a product designer, or you're a jewelry designer, or you're a fashion designer, or you're interior designer. I think they're all the same sort of, they can fit into the same big umbrella. For me, I love and I found really interesting moments of transition between different scales of design, and the language and the sensibility of design really is common between all different fields. So that's how I found my own creative practice. I mean, how architecture has helped me. I would say tremendously. I can't pinpoint at a specific point, but I think design sensibility exists in architecture, in fashion design, in product design, in any aspects of things that you design, in graphic design. I really love experimenting with different aspects of design in different fields, and bring one language and put it in another field.
Nice. Yeah, I think I can, I feel the same way. Could be here. We did something recently. I'm gonna touch on that a little later, but we're about to move on to our next poll right now, I believe. So cool. Yeah, I think right now the industry is making a shift where I believe even my peers agree that a lot of designers were all interested in one another's trade. Like as a product designer, I'm very much interested in architecture. Like what architects do is it's crazy to me. Like everything about it. And Cooper Huey, we recently put together a program for students about age group of 16 to 22 to interact with each other within their different fields. So like fashion, product, and so on and so forth, for that cross-pollination of ideas with each other. Great. So far, things I wish I knew is in the lead. Oh, and that's the one that we're going with this time. Things I wish I knew. So I'm gonna start out with this question because I'm also curious to the answers you all will give. What advice would you give your younger self now that you're in the field? Starting out, what would you tell younger you? And
you really want that, huh?
Yeah, sure.
I think that I would have appreciated knowing how competitive it is. Okay. It's far more competitive than I ever imagined. And so with that, I had to work really hard. I mean, I think you have to work hard at anything, but this is a very difficult industry and business. And not that I would have done anything any better because I competed. I'm here. Okay, so I did what was necessary, but I might have appreciated knowing that, oh my God, it really takes a lot of not necessarily being the best, or perfect, but working in excellence to get here. I knew it was difficult. I didn't realize how long it would take, and I didn't realize how challenging it would be. Would I have continued if I knew? Yeah, but I probably would have coached myself along the way and say, Cheryl, this is going to take some time. You got a big vision. This is going to take some time. Stick with it. I didn't realize how big a mountain it was to climb.
Nice. Definitely insightful for me, because I guess I also have no idea how competitive it is.
Oh, it's very competitive. Yeah. And the reason being, I'll just say this. The reason being is that a lot of people that think they can enter in and enter in the back door. Okay, so entering in the back door means like you can go to Michael's and get a coupon and or you can go to Apple and get a computer and you're done. You can just go and do it. I found the only way to get out of folks that just wanted to jump in was education. The more that I've been able to accumulate it, and the more I could learn, and the more I do learn, keeps me ahead of this competitive game, especially over and against people who just want to jump in because they can get an Apple computer, or they can go to design school on YouTube, YouTube Design University. So there are a lot of homegrown that jump in, and then you have peers who are competitive. So I think that just keeping well exposed, a lot of internships, a lot of education, and a lot of performance, it'll thrust you out in front. But it does take a minute to get thrusted out in front. So if you want to do it, you just got to go for it all the way.
That's the process. Nice. Okay. Benas?
I think, this is a very interesting question. I think the advice that I would have given myself, it would be, or looking back, it would be to find your passion, like just find what you're interested, and don't think that that's not design. If you're interested in game design and that makes you really excited, but you don't find the immediate connection between game design and graphic design, maybe that's what you will do in future. So follow what you're really passionate about. If you're passionate about a sport, or if you're passionate about certain aspects of design that it's not immediately related to what you do now, like textile design, pursue it, just learn about it, and don't just block it because that's not immediately relevant to what you do. The most important thing is to follow your passion. I think that's really important. And I think, fortunately, I somehow followed that. I wanted to go study fine arts when I was a high school student. My father persuaded me that, no, you're really good at math and mathematics. You should go to study architecture and engineering. So at the time, that sort of happened. But as I followed also art and design on the side, I feel like these words kind of collide, and I managed to find my own voice by connecting these words together. So don't stick to sort of silos that a lot of time education is imposing on us, and follow your own path. Follow what you are passionate and make it a reality. The challenge is to stick with it and just be persistent. That's the key, really.
Thank you. Melinda?
I think, well, it's funny, Benaz, I had the same conversation with my dad. He's like, but you're so good at math. Do you really want to go to an art school? I'm like, yes, I do. But anyhow, I think advice I would have had for myself is to slow down during college. I think my journey into design was to go to university. I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design, and the university atmosphere is creating lots of space to explore, to, like Benaz said, find out what your interests are, what you get inspired by. In addition to my like core industrial design classes I was taking, I also was taking poetry classes and art history classes and learning about sculpture, etc. And I think my mindset at that time was like, I just need to get through these classes, graduate. I cannot wait to be a designer and start my career and like just get out there. But now when I look back on those years, I wish that I had, yes, slowed down a little bit, taken full advantages of all the time, space, and resources my university was providing to me at the time, and like had a little bit more fun, I guess.
Yeah, that can be challenging. Like
It can be really challenging. Yeah.
saying like I'm there now where you were.
Uh-huh.
I have been doing that. I'm exploring like next semester I'm taking a jewelry class
Mm-hmm.
just to see what that's about. I've always been interested in jewelry, and just really taking the time to focus on what I like and not so much what my professors like. Because right now I'm in the midst of designing something for class, and my professor's like, I kind of like it this way, and I want to do my own thing, but I also want to pass. So there's that conflict there, and just trying to get out of here and get into the design world. So, which is actually a great segue into the next question for things I wish I knew, which is what are some misconceptions you had about the design field before beginning your career? And, you want to continue, Melinda?
Gosh, misconceptions about the design field. I think a misconception that I had was I very naively thought at the beginning of my career that other groups I was interacting with on a daily basis, whether that was like sales, marketing, different business development teams, I sort of felt like they weren't on my side. I felt like design should be free of constraint, and that these partners within the organizations I was working with were just imposing constraints. So I think that was actually a misconception, because in the long run, I ended up learning how their perspectives and feedback and input could be so enabling to my design work in the long run, and made the design basically reach more people and have like a greater impact on the people we were trying to reach. So I definitely think for designers, like we can push back really hard against constraints, or we can view feedback from different people as constraints when really it can be really insightful to our work.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's a narrative that needs to stop being pushed so much in design school, because I have that same thought, because a lot of times I'll design something and the teacher might say, oh, good luck getting that past an engineer if you ever do, go ahead and make that. And I was like, oh, so they're just here to shoot down all of our ideas. So.
Yeah, as somebody who works with engineers like every moment of every day at my in my current role, it's definitely a balancing act, because I think like a designer's idea or innovation can be risk to a person whose core responsibility is to ensure the product is safe and cost effective so that people can afford to buy it, and all of these different things. But like if you can achieve that balance, you can have such a greater influence or impact overall, because ultimately you're getting your design in the hands of people who could really stand to benefit from it.
Definitely. Any thoughts on this, Sheryl, Benas?
Well, I think my misconception was that the process for advancement was going to be more fair. Okay, than I've experienced. which, you know, being good is not always what's going to take you on from season to season, advancement to advancement. There are other things that go along with it. And I thought the access was a little easier if the work wasn't good and I didn't need to depend on other things. And so what could the other things be? Being able to network, being able to be, it's people want to work with their friends. So, you know, small units within big corporations, you know, studios are small businesses. And so it could be kind of cliquey, and you've got to fit in collaborative work and in units. And you could be not a great designer, but if you get along with everybody and everybody likes you, then you're in. So you can't always, you know, it's really tough. So the last question, it's almost the same thing. I didn't realize how competitive it was. And from time to time, you don't know what it is that is going to advance you forward. So I thought it would be just a little bit more accessible than I've discovered, and that I could lean onto good work all the time. But there's a big part of it that is social and is networking, and making sure that, you know, you're doing all the internships, you're meeting people, and social media can help you. And like programs like this can help you, because that's where people get to know you and want to help you and move along. So the connectedness, I didn't realize how important it was as a designer. But when I was in business, I realized the connectedness, and that was easy for me because I knew people who could buy my services, which is different, much, much different than knowing managers who would hire you. Okay. So networking and learning to meet people and be able to sell yourself. I didn't realize how much that was going to be needed.
Soft skills, essentially.
Huh?
Soft skills then are just as important. Nice.
Yeah, which was big. I didn't realize how big it was. And every day, you know, every day I have to do something to let people know what I do. And so you have to learn that.
Definitely. Okay. We have about 2 minutes. No pressure, but now let's toss it over to you last.
Yeah. Actually, maybe I reflect on something that Francis said, and I think that was one of my own misconceptions before I enter more to the world of like dive deeper into architecture and design, which I was always thinking that if you have an idea, the idea is important, but it doesn't matter, someone is going to build it. But gradually in the last 10 years, I would say, I realized that it's not about the idea, like how do you see your idea will be realized, and how are you understanding the complexity of construction of such an idea is very important. So I spend a lot of time in understanding how to make things, how to prototype things from low resolution to high resolution to actual fabrication of final outcome. So if you're seeing that your practice is going toward some sort of design tangible outcomes, get your hands with the materials and construction early on, because you have to understand how things are coming together, how from software to hardware, how things would kind of integrate into one another as one. A lot of time design students, they just stay in the world of, you know, computers or just a piece of paper. But it's good to very quickly start actually making your prototypes to actual tangible objects in the world, so you can show it to your friends, and show it to your mentors, to your colleagues, and in future that will be your practice.
I agree. We're going to move on to the next poll, the last poll here. We have 3 topics left: mentorship, education, and breaking boundaries in design. So the poll is open now, and everybody cast their vote. But on what you're saying, Banaz, that sounds like I'm kind of moving in the right direction then, because I spend a lot of my time here on campus in the shop. I actually work in our metal shop, just to get that hands-on metal and wood, actually, just to kind of understand, the materials better. I think it's important as a designer to understand the things you're going to be working with.
Absolutely. Like, I can't emphasize how important it is as a designer to spend time in the workshop with tools and machineries and really understand how things come together. You have this time right now when you're a student. Later on, it might be less, but definitely it's very, very important.
Nice. And it looks like education has won the last poll. So we're going to move on to those questions. It's an important question, education. What non-design related experiences helped develop you into the designer you are now? And Sheryl, would you like to start off?
Yeah, I had an interesting intersection when I was practicing. Union Theological became my client, and the director of admissions was my direct client, and I was making brochures, for the school. And she invited me to apply to the school, and I'm like, why do I want to do that? Why do I want to do that? But she kept kind of prodding me to do it and inviting me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start. Okay, I'll apply. If I get in, then I'll deal with it. Okay. And I got accepted. I'm like, okay, now what are we going to do? And then, and I had a very busy firm in New York City, and the school was uptown Broadway. And I'm like, okay. So I said, let me try 2 classes. Let me go part-time and see how it works out. And to my surprise, I was invited into the first semester. I was invited into the PhD program. Okay. And I'm like, what in the world? What in the world? How in the world? This is one of the top seminaries in North America. How in the world did I get in? And then how in the world in the first semester did I get invited as a New Testament PhD scholar? Okay, so they look at potential scholars early because it takes so long to get a full PhD. You have to be able to pass 5 languages, Greek, Hebrew, Latin, all that, before you even get to study. And so they look for potential students who can cut it. And first semester, 2 classes, I get invited in, and I'm like, what manner of woman are you, Sheryl? I've been studying art. By this time, I'd gone to art school twice, and I had a degree from, graduate degree. And I'm like, I had no idea that I had any skills to do theological work. And I got led into the next level of writing. I've always been a good writer. And so the writing is what, ministers go to theology, but the other thing this particular school prided itself on was creating historians and scholars to create scholarship. So I was led into a place that would make me a better writer than I already was. And I've always been a great writer, but I didn't take it seriously. So I took design and art seriously. I never took the fact that I could write seriously. And my English teachers, everybody was telling me, go, 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 and I went the other way. The other thing about it is that I ended up having something to write about. And I got led into this other environment that really has made me who I am as a writer. And I would have never imagined. So that was some kind of educational pivot that put me, it pulled me along. I was already on the right path, but it really, it threw me on destiny's path. Okay, I can write. I didn't know I needed that much help, but here we are.
That's amazing. All right, we have 5 minutes. I'm going to throw it over to Melinda.
Francis, could you say the question one more time?
Sure. It was, what non-design related experiences helped you develop into the designer you are now?
Got you. Okay, I will try and make this short. I'm from Northeast Ohio. I did not have any exposure to design, probably until college. I didn't even really know what design was, even though I had applied and been accepted to an industrial design program at the Savannah College of Art and Design, you know, so I don't think I really figured out what design was until I was already a college student. But leading up to that, I think there were sort of three pieces that came together for me. The first experience was I always loved art as a hobby, and it was soil that my parents sort of tilled for me. They let me pursue that, and that was sort of a theme throughout my life, starting from elementary school, I think, but fine art, not design. Then when I was in middle school, I was in the Girl Scouts, and the founder of Girl Scouts, Julia Gordon Lowe, is from Savannah, Georgia. So we went to Savannah, Georgia on a trip, and that's when I first encountered the university I ended up going to, SCAD. And that was sort of the first experience I had where I realized that art could potentially be a career. It wasn't just a hobby. No one had ever told me that before. I thought it was something you did for fun. I didn't know it could be your whole life. So that was really exciting. And during that trip, I ended up signing up for some sort of annual report that they send out every year, where it's basically an overview of their programs and then samples of student work for each program. And I used to just wait for this book to come, because I would flip through it and I would see all of this incredible art and design work from kids who, not kids, adults who were just a few years, I was a kid, but they were just a few years older than me. You know, I'm sitting there being 14, 15 years old and seeing work that people who are 18 and 19 years old were generating. And I was just blown away by that, and like so inspired, and hoped maybe I could be like that one day. And then in high school, I was pretty academic, and I was going to pursue engineering. My father's an engineer, but he ended up bringing to me this article from an auto magazine, because he loves cars, and it talked about industrial design and basically how in context with like car styling, and how like if you want to style vehicles, you should pursue industrial design. And my father was sort of like, hey, this seems like, you know, a balance of the things that you love. Like, you are hands-on, you're interested in academics and engineering. There's also this art component, which is the component I felt like didn't really fit with pursuing engineering only. So it sort of all came together for me my senior year. Those like three things: loving art, Girl Scouts, SCAD, and this like random magazine. And yeah, without those experiences, industrial design definitely would not have like fallen into place for me as a potential career path. That it happened pretty perfectly, honestly. It's cool.
It's cool. That's cool how they all just intersect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Banaz?
Yeah, fascinating to hear your stories. For me, the non-design experiences that I think it influenced my practice, one is definitely art. From early on, I had the tendency to go like on weekly schedule, go to art galleries, see art in museums and galleries, and really kind of expose to the contemporary art, and follow that journey kind of closely through the years that I had, both in high school as well as in college. But also, I want to say that in the time that I actually moved to States, and I've been living in LA, I kind of embodied this Californian lifestyle by getting out and go to the ocean. And so I want to say that I want to sort of encourage everyone to definitely follow one sport that you're interested. It can be anything that it's around you that you would find interest in it. For me, was a proximity to the ocean, and I discovered that I'm in love with the ocean and surfing, and that really opened up the whole new world for me. because it's not just a sport activity, but I'm inspired by connecting to nature. So this sort of modern life wants us to constantly be connected to our mobile devices and our laptops and different devices that it's around us. But I think it's very important that sometimes you just put that aside, get off the grid, go on hiking or go in the ocean and just not be connected and just connect yourself to the ocean and be present. So I think that's something that everyone kind of know it, everyone take it for granted, but I think it has so much impact in the quality of your ideas, in the quality of your experience of the world. So from early on, get the habit of make sure you're connected with nature and with your body, and experience that will really impact your experience of design, I would say, in a very non-designy way.
Definitely. I draw a lot of my inspiration in design from nature. So I agree. Well, thank you. That was our last poll. So now we're going to move on to our Q&A. And it looks like we have one right here. I'm going to read it out. And anybody feel free to answer this one. How do you hope the design field will evolve? Right. So, any takers?
Yeah. I mean, the short answer, to be more diverse and to be more fair. So I think we are seeing some changes in the scene. We are seeing more gender balance. We are seeing more diversities. But I think we are nowhere close to the just word. So hopefully the world of design moves toward a more just future.
Definitely. Anybody else want to answer that? All right. It's funny because there's actually a question that correlates with that one in here. It asks do you think it is the job of every designer to make sure the industry is inclusive? And I guess why? So I think this is kind of right up your alley. I'll toss that to you, Sheryl.
You want to answer that one again? Ask me again. Ask me again.
Gotcha. If you think it's the job of every designer to make sure that the industry is inclusive.
Yes. And I was reading a question. Maybe the person can raise their hand for me. What does Dr. Miller do that makes her stand out? I deal with everything that's wrong with the industry. And I tell everybody the truth about everything that's wrong with the industry. And the social justice part of my work is something that I picked up in seminary, liberation theology, social justice. So I have dedicated my life to doing everything I can do to make the wrong things right. And so I've designed advocacy, and I was one of the first ones to do that. So the standout was I did some of this work with scholarship and writing, and I did it first. So kind of always following your heart about finding the rare thing that nobody else wants to tackle or do, or to be the first one to do it. I saw things that weren't right, and I've lived my life to try to make those things correct and to expose them. So the answer to that question and the chat question, what makes me stand out? I'm going to tell you the truth. And sometimes that's not always pretty. But I do find that people who want to acknowledge the truth do want to come together to make things better. And there's always got to be someone somewhere that brings light into conversation. There's always something that needs to be made better. And I have not been afraid to say, hey guys, the things here we can do better. And including one another is one of the best things that we can begin to do. So, and that's why I'm here.
Definitely an important job you do, Dr. Sheryl. We have time for one more question. And I think this one is good for maybe some of our older guests who are thinking about switching into design. Lindsay McGee asks, knowing the design world is competitive to start, would you say starting out at an older age puts one at a further disadvantage? And Linda, would you like to, or Sheryl, whoever?
Yeah, starting out older, it depends on how old older is. Okay, because with everything in a career, you have so much time to get the foundation done. And so if you're talking about a retirement idea, I don't think so. This is not the business you want to start in your retirement. Okay, go to the senior center and take drawing classes. You don't want to start this, because it takes a lot to there are only so many years that this whole system of what we call working will allow you to do. So you figure that out. If we're talking second career, that's another thing. If we're talking, late in your career, the closer you are to a formal federal retirement year, the harder it gets if you're going to depend on other people for work, i.e. a job. So the closer you are to 65, it's how difficult it is for you to get a foothold in employment. But if you just want to be doing this and you want to do it, create business, you can do that as long as you want. Okay. And you can start wherever you want to start with that. But to start a formal career, don't wait. Don't wait. It takes the full journey to have a return at the end. And I've been doing this since I was a kid, the whole way. I've been doing this since I was 16 years old. I started with an interest when I was 3, won the first award when I was 10. I've been doing this. I haven't done anything else, guys. This is it. Okay. And so I can't imagine, as much work as I've done, I can't imagine having started it late. So that's just my finding. Start as early as you can and expect the best, work hard.
Would you like to weigh in on that, Melinda?
Yeah, I just saw Lindsay, thank you for sharing your age. I think it kind of depends on what field of design you're interested in. I think that probably has an influence over the answer to this question, but I think one of the beautiful things about design is whatever your career has been up until this point can become like the context and the backdrop that you bring into whatever design education that you choose to pursue. And I hope you will consider some degree of education, because it'll just jumpstart you. It's so much harder to start from scratch and learn everything on your own. So I would definitely recommend some amount of education if you're serious about pursuing design. But I don't think that 36 is too old to consider a career in design. I think just like Sheryl said, if you're serious about it and want to work hard, I think you can definitely break into the industry. That's my personal opinion on it.
I guess we'll thank you for sharing, Melinda, and we'll close out with Benas.
Sorry, I was just reading the comments in the chat, so I lost the question.
I believe it was how old, if it's harder for older people to get into the industry. Is there any
Yeah, that's a difficult one. I don't know if I can actually add anything more to what the previous comments was. I think if you are someone who has some sort of art and design sensibility, meaning that you have been interested in that for a long time, maybe you didn't have academic education, that is absolutely fine. You can enter at any time. But if you never thought about it, but all of a sudden it's become something cool that, oh, maybe I should just do that, that's going to be difficult because you just haven't thought about it. So it's very specific to a certain context.
Well, thank you all for being here tonight, including our 3 panelists, and everyone have a great night.
Thank you all. I also
Thank you.
enjoyed to know about you, Melinda and Sheryl.
Thanks for
thank you.
having us.
Thanks for having us, and congratulations to all. And if you find me on Instagram or LinkedIn, just connect. We can keep talking, okay?
Great.
Sounds great.
guys.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Francis, I found you on LinkedIn, so we'll